All right, Shalom. This is Howard One by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Harakar Kodash, Ma'amah. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. And Shalom to you, Akim, and Akwatim and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. I want to go into this topic. The European circumvents U.S. sanctions on Iran. All right, so everybody know about the sanctions that America, through Trump, has been putting on Iran, right? Saying that no countries can do deals with them in oil or other different type of assets. So now you have the European Union, which is the dragon of the Bible spoken of in Revelation 17, hating the whore, all right? Created this alternative channel of doing trade with Iran, which is called Instex, all right? Now I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna read a little bit of this article, but I think as of last week, Instex is active, and that's why I wanted to, if you look on the page in the history, I went into a lesson a few weeks back on the dollar collapse. And the dollar collapse is basically, matter of fact, I'm gonna get the definition again. All right, here go the definition of a dollar collapse. And this lets you know that the dollar is about to collapse, man. And all these nations have moved away, set up a channel to move away from the dollar, and it's active. So that's it. You know, that's what a dollar collapse is. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just go ahead and read this. It says a dollar collapse is when the value of the US dollar plummets. All right, and all they have is what? Faith in the dollar. That's the only value that it has. It's not backed by gold. It's really backed by oil. It should be called the petrodollar. You know, that's what it really should be called now. Ever since 1973 or 74 with the OPEC nations and the Saudi Arabia deal with America. I might get into that a little bit. All right. A dollar collapse is when the value of the US dollar plummets. Anyone who holds dollar denominated assets will sell them at any cost. That includes foreign governments who own US treasuries. It also affects foreign exchange futures traders. This will drive the value of the dollar down to near zero. So when the dollar collapses, that's going to open up the door for them to have their G20 meeting and bring in the new currency, which is going to be the RFID chip and blockchain and cryptocurrency. All right, they're going to move away from the dollar. All right, it says European Union circumvents U.S. sanctions on Iran. And the European Union, through Europe, America really got its power. So that's like the pimp is stripping the whore of all his riches. America became the whore through the witchcraft of the Illuminati with the establishment of the dollar. All right, that Rothschild dollar. So through that dollar, they deceived the whole world and stole all the assets and resources from the whole world. Europe has found a way of circumventing U.S. sanctions on Iran, right? Because through SWIFT, all right, which is a transactional company that was set up after the Bretton Woods Agreement as a transaction base for all these countries to be able to handle their transactions, all right, with the dollar. But now if they move away from the dollar, which SWIFT is a Belgium-based company, right, which is one of the 10 horns, but they move away from that company, which they have, they're moving over to this new company channel called Instex, which is going to be based on crypto or electronic base, pulling away from the dollar. It's going to be dealing with gold and oil and different assets. And all these nations going to flock to it, man. All right, pulling away from the dollar. because you had Swift kicked Iran out of its privileges of being able to trade, of dealing with the dollar. All right, I gotta get into all this. So it says the governments of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, and these are all part of the 10 Horns, have developed a special purpose vehicle, SPV, special purpose vehicle, to enable European businesses to maintain non-dollar trade with Iran without breaking U.S. sanctions. That SPV, special purpose vehicle, as Instex, is now up and running. So now they're pulling away from the dollar. The dollar going to be left stranded. America's going to be left stranded. All right. And France, Germany, and the UK are America's biggest allies in Europe. All right. And Britain's included in that. See that? It says the three governments announced the successful implementation of Instex at a meeting of the Joint Commission of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, on June 28, 2019. The meeting was chaired on behalf of the EU by the Secretary General. All right, that's not important. Let me skip down. Here's the point. France, Germany, and the United Kingdom informed participants that Instex had been made operational and available to all EU members states, and that the first transactions are being processed, right? So they basically saying, hey man, the doors are open when y'all ready to pull away from the dollar. A lot of people like Greece and certain other countries, they're afraid to just jump over to the new channel because America is talking about fining these countries like $900 million, man, or $1 billion or $1 million. So they, once they find their way out, and whoever has the most to gain, once they start revolting against America, against the dollar, that's it, man. That shit could happen this year. If that happens, they got to come up with a new form of a world transaction, a new currency, and it's going to be the crypto or the microchip. All right. It says, where was that? It says ongoing complementary cooperation with the Iranian corresponding entity, STFI, right? Iran came up with its own form of non-dollar transactions too, which has already been established, will speed up. They confirmed that some EU member states were in the process of joining Instex as shareholders, the special purpose vehicle aimed at facilitating legitimate business with Iran. They are also working to open Instex to economic operations from third countries. Wow. So, hey man, this is the same reason that America started the war with Saddam Hussein, because let me go to this real quick. All right, you had this let me get this. All right, you have this right here called the Bretton Woods Agreement. I went into a few times. The Bretton Woods system of monetary management established the dollar pegged to gold. All right, that's when everybody, once that was established as you can trade the main reserve currency that you could trade completely in dollars in gold would be the dollar. All right, so everybody was flocking to the dollar at this time. So it was a setup to bait everybody in, all these countries, even Russia. The Bretton Woods system of monetary management established the rules of commercial and financial relations among the United States, Canada, Western Europe, European countries, Australia, and Japan after the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement. So it was 1944, all right, right after World War II. The Bretton Woods system, right, yeah, so I wanted to double check. So it was right in the midst of World War II. World War II fully ended in 1945. So after the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement, the Bretton Woods system was the first example of a fully negotiated monetary order intended to govern monetary relations among the independent states. So it was intended to govern monetary states, monetary relations. All right, handling money, something that moves, the currency. You know, what currency were they going to use? So this was a system to govern over it. It was really established by Britain, and it says, where was I at? The chief features of the Bretton Woods system were an obligation for each country to adopt a monetary policy that maintained its external exchange rates within 1% by tying its currencies to gold. See, and the ability of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that's through Britain, to bridge temporary imbalances of payments. So, basically the Illuminati is still handling the money, which was their request anyway. Also, there was a need to address the lack of cooperation among other countries and to prevent competitive devaluation of the currencies as well. All right. So that was established in 1944, pegging the dollar to gold. Now, this was the setup. All right. Now, this was the setup. So through the Bretton Woods Agreement, they got all these countries to buy into the dollar because it was trade. It was the world reserve currency, so it was tradable in gold. I think it was $30 would get you a buoyant of gold or something like that. I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But you had something called the Nixon shock in 1971. It really should be called the Nixon surprise. The Nixon shock was a series of economic measures undertaken by United States President Richard Nixon in 1971, right? And this was establishing the Bretton Woods. That was basically the first world order. Now they're coming up with a new world order. That's right. That's the reason why they're calling it a new world order. The first world order was set up with the dollar. Now they're trying to bring in a new world order with cryptocurrency and the RFID chip. So they got to bring down their bottom bitch, which is going to be the dollar, the whore, America, Babylon. The Nixon shot. Okay, in response to increasing inflation, the most significant of which were wage and price freezes, surcharges on imports, and the unilateral cancellation of the direct international convertibility of the United States dollar to gold. So I'm gonna read that again. And the unilateral cancellation of the direct international convertibility of the United States dollar to gold. So he basically removed the gold standard from the dollar. That's why you look on the dollar now, it says legal tender instead of gold tender. All right. So all the countries that bought into the dollar with the Bretton Woods Agreement, they were robbed of their gold. All right. With this, they said, "Yo, we're not giving you your gold back, and we're going to freeze everything." And they never unfroze it. They kept it. So that's when you have this right here set up. All right. You had the International Monetary Fund set up something called SDRs, which is called special drawing rights, which is a basket of all the world's currencies. And it was like a fallback, since it was like, yo, since America not going to give you your gold back, let me give y'all a way so y'all can buy into each other's currencies. Here go a new basket called the SDR, special drawing rights. And we put the currencies in there. And you buy into it, but you got to maintain it and keep it up. So everybody bought into the dollar, and they have to maintain it with dollars. This shit crazy, man. It's like a crazy hustle scheme, man, pyramid scheme. And that's why you had these bailouts and things like that. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. Now it says also, abbreviated SDR, are supplementary foreign exchange reserve assets defined and maintained by the International Monetary Fund. The SDR is the unit of account for the IMF and is not a currency per se. So it's not an actual currency, it's just a unit of account. Sort of like cryptocurrency in a sense. But it was like the first form of cryptocurrency, if you want to call it that, like fractional reserve currency. But cryptocurrency is going to be tied to blockchain. Blockchain is a ledger base that starts a new birth and following a tracing of every imprint that happens on in that blockchain, calling it blockchain, creating a chain. Now it says the SDR is the unit of account. Where was that? Okay, right here, number 3. SDRs instead represent a claim to currency held by IMF member countries. See, all these countries that were left out there hanging for the gold, they were able to buy into this. It was like a fallback because they got robbed by America, man. And it says IMF members countries for which they may be exchanged. The SDR was created in 1969 to supplement. So it was, you got to see that, man. The IMF SDR was created in 1969. See, the Nixon shock happened in 1971. So this was a pre-planned thing. They created the fallback for everybody because they saw it coming. They see this collapse coming, man, because they're the ones bringing it. All right. They're the ones causing it. Order out of chaos. They pre-planning it. So they set up the fallback plan called SDR, special drawing rights, for the countries to go into or put their currencies into and buy and trade, since the dollar wasn't backed by gold anymore. So they had to find a way to handle the gold and the oil and all these different things. But the dollar was the main world currency, So it just wasn't backed by gold anymore, but it still held that spot as the world currency. So everybody was stuck with these reserve dollars in their possession. Now you have, so this happened in 1969 to supplement a shortfall of preferred foreign exchange reserves assets, namely gold and the US dollar. So it was a way to set up exchange for the countries that weren't dealing with just the dollar, or that was stuck without that deal from the Bretton Woods, that was stuck without their gold. All right, I'm gonna read this. It says special drawing rights were created by the IMF in 1961 and were intended to be an asset held in foreign exchange reserves under the Bretton Woods system of fixed exchange rates. All right. So it's meant to be coupled with Bretton Woods system. But it says XDR, the SDR was initially defined as US $1 equal to 0.888671 grams of gold. After the collapse of that system in the early 1970s, right, the Bretton Woods system collapsed, and you had the Nixon shock where they unpaid gold from the dollar. The SDR has taken on a less important role, acting as the unit of account for the IMF, has been its primary purpose since 1972, right? So they don't have an actual currency floating around. It's just people buy into it, and it basically governs over certain accounts. All right. Now, like for instance, you have the US dollar, euro, Chinese yuan, and the yuan had just surpassed the dollar in that basket of currencies, the currency basket. The pound sterling, and you have the ruble added now as well, backed by gold. And the yuan is backed by gold, and the dollar is not backed by anything. All right, and the euro's failing too. So these are all the main top currencies. Right now, the top one is the dollar, only because they have faith in the dollar. Now they're losing faith in it. That's it. It's done. And the oil. But all these countries, like Iran, is one of the biggest holders over there with the OPEC nations. Wow, I don't know what this is going to say, but it looks like it's going to be good because you have Instex and OPEC meeting an oil market. Woo! So America's losing its power, man. It's losing its oil connections, gold connections, and military backing, financial backing. So that's 2 days ago, July 3rd. OPEC, man, Now, matter of fact, I'm gonna read that after this, what OPEC is. It says, in the past few days, oil traders around the world have been eyeing three major events closely in order to catch a glance at the direction in which the oil prices would be heading. So the oil price is going to skyrocket when the dollar collapses. On Friday, in the Austrian capital city of Vienna, an Iranian delegation headed by Abbas Araki was discussing the EU promised instrument in support of trade exchanges. The EU, the dragon, Instex, all right, in support of trade exchanges, with the 4+1 group headed by the secretary. It used to be 5+1, now it's 4+1 because Iran left. Secretary General of the European External Action Service, EEAS, Helga Schmid. The outcomes of this meeting could play a significant role in determining the oil market statistics in the near future. In the same day, thousands of miles away, in the Japanese city of Osaka, the G20 summit was underway, in which heads of the world's two biggest economies, namely China and US, were attending. Many were hopeful that on the sidelines of this summit, the two sides would hold talks. I'm gonna skip that. 3 days later, one of the world's most important events pertaining to the oil market was also underway. Members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, which basically gave the dollar its power around 1973 through 1975, with the establishment of America's deal with the Saudi Arabian prince at that time, or king at that time, man. And they promised to protect their oil fields if Saudi Arabia made all the nations buy oil in dollars. So they moved away from gold, took their money, their gold that way, their assets that way. And now they're saying all the countries, if you want to buy oil from Iran, from all the OPEC nations, Saudi Arabia as well, then you had to do it in dollars. And America promised to protect all these nations' oil fields and such, and different other deals. So that established the dollar as what? The petrodollar. All right. But now these nations are finding ways to go around that through what? Instex. They don't have to buy oil from the OPEC nations in dollars anymore. They can keep that system in place, but they don't have to use it. That's crazy, right? And that's the reason America started a war with Saudi Arabia, with Libya. Any nation, because that dollar was in place as the world currency ever since 1971. All right. I mean, it really really fully established in place. And since they unpegged it from gold, it's been still thriving as the world currency, ever since the Bretton Woods Agreement. But they brought it, and all the way up until what's his name? Saddam Hussein, when he started trying to sell gold, trade gold to euros instead of dollars, that's when they went in there and got them. And they said any nation does that, they're going to collapse America's currency, which will destroy America. And that's why they got to go to war. So now you have Iran doing that. And now you have the EU doing that. You have Russia doing that with China. They're trading directly without using the dollar. You know, you have all the 10 horns doing it, according to scripture. I'm going to get that as well. So, you know, along with Russia and other allies gathered in Vienna to discuss market policies and statistics, and more importantly, to decide whether to extend a deal reached 2 years ago for cutting their production by 1.2 million barrels per day. Hey, you see the title, man. Will Iran sanctions herald the fall of the imperial dollar? So, it's deep. Instex is a complicated mechanism registered in France and headed, or whatever. I'm going to get some more topics on it. All right, brought this out before, but I'm bringing it out again. Psalm 7:15. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. So they said a ditch, and they said a pit, a trap for Iran, and America's going to fall into it themselves, even militarily. All right, and everything that America does, the Most High got them in that grip, and you're gonna get tighter and tighter, man. Like King Kong gripping them. He's getting squeezing and squeezing. It says, so it's like quicksand, and America's gonna fall into that ditch. They're falling. Them putting sanctions. Trump putting sanctions through his pride on Iran. Now it's making these nations choose a side, and they're gonna collapse their dollar. All right, start dumping the dollars. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. All right, that's pate etymology. It says what? A person's head. You know, he scratched his balding pate, so it can come down upon his own head. All this destruction, all the hell that they're trying to bring on everybody else is going to come back on America, and ultimately on all Esau, man. All right, all these countries, but it's going to start with America. Now I want to show something that I noticed. This is from the Apostles page, where it talks about the 7 heads and 10 horns of the, you know, the horse sitting upon the beast and the dragon. You know, the beast being NATO and the whore being America, and of course the dragon being the European Union. Now it says the 10 horns represent the common market of the European Economic Community, right? The EEC established in 1958. Today, the EEC is known as the EU, the European Union, right? And it developed into the Western European Union, which branched up with the NATO and America. Now, you have the 10 horns right here. You have Belgium, Denmark, France, which is one of the spearheaded countries that's leading the charge for Instex, right? France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Greece. Basically, Luxembourg and Netherlands is basically Eastern Germany. Greece, Ireland, England, and Western Germany. So you even have Netherlands or Ireland, which would basically sum up. If you want to sum them up, you can, you know, deal with the UK as well. All right, but I want to show something. All right, look at these tabloids, man. Netherlands, you got one. The Netherlands plans to join Instex. All right, the Dutch government announced that it plans to join the financial mechanism of instrument in support of trade exchanges to do business with the Islamic Republic of Iran. So they're going to dump the dollar, pull away from the dollar and dealing with Iran. So all these other nations that feel pressure from America, they're going to start going through the same process, through that same channel, following after Iran. And then that's when that dollar collapse is going to fully kick up. All right. That's one. Look at Netherlands. All right. You got this one, Luxembourg. Look at this. Iran negotiating team to be in Luxembourg today. And talking about what? Instex. You know? All right. All right, what's this one? You got Denmark. All right. If Instex were going to help, it would have helped. But it actually got kicked off now. This was back in the day. They was talking trash about Instex, saying it ain't gonna work without any trade going on. But now they just kicked it off and they got some trade going through that channel. All right, pulling away from the dollar. It says Iran, Denmark relationism. All right. EU says Instex operational. So Iran and Denmark are in bed together. Now you have, let's go to, what's this one? Italy. Instex, a new channel to bypass U.S. sanctions and trade with Iran. While Unicredit, Italy's biggest bank, might get a $900 million fine from U.S. because of trading with Iran. So, I got any more? But, and you saw it said France, Germany, and the UK. And the UK is England, Britain, you know, and all those countries, and even Ireland. All right. So that's that. All right. That goes right along with Revelation 17. And he saith unto me, Revelation 17 and 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, right? Just like Babylon. This is the daughter of Babylon, America. It says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, right? So it's saying the 10 horns and the beast, not just upon the beast. So it's saying the 10 horns and the beast, because the beast represent the 7 heads, right? So it's NATO and the European Union. So all those countries, these shall hate the whore. All right, so they begin to hate the whore. All right, it says what? These begin to hate the whore. So they what they're doing? To detest. All right, especially to persecute, by extension to love less. So they starting to hate America. They love America less. To pursue with hatred, detest. Wow, bringing America down, man. Starting to create other systems against it. All right, and it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked. So they're starting to strip her of all the riches and treasures, and strip her of her power. And her power is what? The military, the dollar, you know. Basically their witchcraft, man. Gold, oil, and drugs, and military power, the hammer of the earth. All right, and all of those are what? Power, which is power on the left-hand side, witchcraft, all summed up by the dollar, which is the lesson I'm going to next. It says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, it's supposed to say sawest and the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, right? So they're going to cause a world war to happen, and they're going to sit back and watch while they manipulate it, being the illuminated ones. But the crazy thing is, the Most High put the thoughts into their mind to bring about his prophecies, the end time prophecies, for them to play the wicked, to manifest themselves as the wicked upon earth, and knowing that they have a short time and they coming down having a great wrath. All right, and trying to bring about the new world order. But the Lord says when they go to fill their belly, that's when he gonna rain fire upon them. All right, and they ready to eat. It says, and shall eat her flesh, right, and burn her with fire. Ultimately, gonna cause the World War III to happen, and cause America to be hit with nuclear bombs. For Yahweh have put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, NATO, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, America, which reigneth over the kings of the earth, meaning reigneth over the nations as a king, as a ruler. So those nations, all right, you see the title, Iran nuclear deal, Instex now operational. Instex, the mechanism which will facilitate trade with Iran, is now operational, and its first transactions are being processed.